Michael Milligan has worked as a construction laborer, migrant fruit and farm and grape picker, homestead farmer, and graphic arts production manager. He took his MFA in creative writing at Bennington College, co-founded Poetry Oasis Worcester, and was privileged to be an editor with Diner. His poetry book reviews, fiction, and poems have appeared in Agni, Diner, the New Orleans Review, the Valparaiso Review, Chafin Journal, Blue Earth Review, Illuminations, and others. He is the author of Unless I Came Back to Tell. He published by Gracie Books. The other thing you don't know about him is that he's a really, really talented musician and an incredible artist. The combination is just astonishing. He's a Renaissance man who was transposed to this continent, and I'm so glad he's here.
Newest, as I said, my newest book, which is also my only book so far. I'm going to milk it as long as I can. And after some of these, I'm going to switch off to some newer poems or new old poems that I'm trying to put together into a manuscript that I'm working on, editing and so on right now. So I'm just going to jump right in. This is The Curious Birds in the Night. There is a reference to St. Peter and the rock, which was Jesus's pun on his name, if there are those of you who don't know what that's about. The Curious Birds in the Night. Sometimes at night, I hear strange birds in the background, screaming like people in pain, or maybe not birds, but people in pain like it sounds. All the ones I wronged, all my falsehoods, and assembling all the outright lies, all those people with their pain, crying out like strange birds behind me somewhere. Tonight, I stand stark naked on the rock, surrounded by rising waters, genitals bobbing pleasantly since the water is bathtub warm, though rising fast, while I grip with my toes, and I am not thinking about sharks because thinking might bring them, but as usual, I am thinking about something, wondering why I am always falling from a certain to be fatal height, or else immersing into treacherous and deep waters. Biblically speaking, I resemble either the dove of the Holy Spirit plucked of feathers and falling like a stone, or else a convert drifting downriver and drowning while a congregation on the riverbank cries helplessly like strange birds in the night. Luckily, as the tropical dawn flares, at the horizon, a green speck, a floating island, moves steadily closer. Exhausted, I lose my footing, sink like the rock upon which I stood, a useless and irresponsible rock if I have ever known one, biblically speaking, nothing like St. Peter. And I am verging on another sad ending, but the rips pull, then spill me onto a new emergency beach where the most beautiful woman anyone has ever desired helps me to my feet, holds both my hands, looks directly into my eyes, and says, "It is not right that you keep me here." I'm gonna jump from that into some more water and hope I don't drown. It's a swimming lesson. When I was a kid, I got instructions from the Red Cross. It was in Needham, Massachusetts. There was a pond and the Red Cross had a facility there, and that's where they taught us all to swim. And so this is pretty much going all the way back to that. It was my experience. And I don't know who teaches kids to swim anymore. But anyway, swimming lesson. The pond stretches into a great lake, the safe area marked by bright red floats, strung on yellow rope. He wades until the water reaches his waist, stretches as the teacher instructs, arms straight past his head, legs straight back, face in the water. Here, his skin from head to toe meets the world, and there is water at the surface, water beneath the surface, water underwater, going on forever. He could sink all the way to China and not have to dig after all. If he drowns, he rises back to the light. Everyone applauds his dead man's float. Okay, I had some poems rejected by an editor who was one of my fellow alumni at Bennington, who said the language is beautiful and this and that, but I put too much of the I in there. I only bring this up because I want to point out that in this next poem, because of the controversy over the use of the I personal in a poem, I've changed it to the third person. So it's no longer about me. Trying to get somewhere. Neighborhood with no one else in it. A useless wind blows and Mikey floats with it, not soaring. A hover inches off the ground. A weak corporeal combo. The wind, the slightest weightlessness, nothing truly uplifting, drifting along topographical contours, barely above the earth. Below, clouds scudding sacred twilight, beneath branches of oaks and willows, sycamores and hickories, all moving with the wind, but rooted at home. He's above nothing, really. That dusked out sky concealed behind its mantle might as well be the vault of heaven, with stars a pinprick in the dark. Forget astrophysics. No way he ever gets near those tiny lights, let alone heaven. Above the dirt, maybe, but still he's eaten plenty of that. And actually, no stars adorn his sky tonight. It's raining. In the city, when it rains, the light reflects off the clouds, so the night is brighter than a full moon in a clear sky. Sound carries farther, that saturated air. Mikey hears conversation around the corner, argumentative. He'd like to contemplate the click language of sperm whales, how impervious their messages are to distortion over sea distances, but the invisible strangers sound more imperative and much closer. A floating voice, humid from glass after glass, 3 fingers full, gin binge and big band music slips edges of an unseen mouth. I told you to stay away from that hole over and over, too loud for the useless wind to blow away. Besides, Mikey is on the ground now, toes squeezing dirt, but not rooting, not ever. He gets it. He might as well just walk. I'm reading the next poem just because it has a really long title, which I love to do, but for some reason they don't always make my reading list. I suspect it might be that the title is intended to cover a weaker poem by all the verbiage right up front, but I'm not sure if that's my motivation or not. Maybe you can tell me afterwards. All right, you ready for the title? Sometimes it's hard to know if he's telling the truth, but remember, it's always about the story, similar to how the ink printed on this page is the poem, but is not the poem. Uh-oh. Mikey's down the rabbit hole, falling through endless rain and ice like it's still winter. A season can lengthen suddenly like a rattlesnake and paralyze you to death. In the dark, Mikey thinks he's Icarus again, spreads those giant wings in the sunless dark where nothing ever melts and flies up and out. But Mikey is not Icarus. We have been through all this before. We just can't keep bailing him out every time. Sorry, we don't know how to help you. Mikey's down the the rabbit hole. Got no wings, got no bottom. Even his hole disappears. Sorry, just bear with me for a moment. Reorganizing a bit. What I'm reading next is, it was 3 separate poems initially, and they were short, and I was having trouble coming up with titles, and I'd written them one after another anyway, and I decided that was enough of a thread that I could make them into one poem just because of that. And so I have, and the title is 3 poems. Insert your own titles based on your own needs or whatever. What always happens when even those who know better lose their heads? One might wonder, after all, the carnage and mayhem, why anyone is allowed to keep their own. It is true the entire city has never been destroyed. The graveyards and ghosts survive, of course, and tucked into the swirls of smoke and dust, a few enclaves for the living. Most of the time, no one is there anyway. Confession never does the whole trick. Isn't that always the case? This one apologizes, that one blames, those remain silent. And some people lie in their diaries. If you know who to trust, please tell me.
And
I'm going to be reading out of my water hasn't run down this ditch in years. No surprise, the entire landscape thirsts. I would speak directly to desire, but I'm avoiding commentary. Besides, it's pretty hard to think clearly when one's head fills with imagined intimacies. When all the air drains out, there's nothing left but a dusty bag of bones. And in the end, no one remembers whose they were. I was going to do a lighter reading tonight, and then I realized that I don't write those kinds of poems. Well, I'm sorry. This is a poem that I have I don't think I've ever read before an audience, and it's a little bit longer than some of my stuff. And it's something of a language experiment. I mean, the idea is that it does tell this story, and it does so in a less than linear fashion. I'm never sure if these things work or how well they work, but I like it, and I want to try it out. So you're all my guinea pigs. Thank you for being here. Fade to white. That last night of headlights and snow reminds me I have been blind before. When a blizzard clawed car light to shreds, and I continued until a piece of moon shivered to fall. When we arrived, unimportant. I only cared for where. Then you said, see, as if you healed me. I knew you meant to prove a point, yet my sight returned, drawn to you like a deer on a highway, so I touched. I thought you for years until you said, stop, that's not who. And so, summer now. If winter was the reckoning of alone, then this hot season rekindles your appearance. I intend to dream your face away, make you less than you were. Since I wakened, someone like you, but not like you, leaps effortlessly over drifts and sentimentality. I think I still know, or would know you again, seeing or not seeing all the same vision. You, my dim gloss, are here and not here. I am silent, yet you, haunting memory and I, seem to speak, white garments wind-tugged and storm looming at my back. What I want to say, just this morning, a killdeer chick skittered and peeped, sharp-shinned hawk skimmed, chick scurried to mother, hawk took mother. I know you are no bird or any beast of prey, so why afraid? Which apparition closes in now? What distance makes? Are these your talons or mine? Shall I proceed toward touch again, knowing my hands always pass through? Hard to tell. In the past, I moved toward you, veered away. You hid finally in the expanse, chanced wide for haunts on ghostly nights. Beyond looms the mountaintop, full moon clattering on crags. I am so alone, cord and tether lost, adrift like that dinghy we sailing the bay found in the swollen estuary. We watched it grab and ride for open ocean. My mute love, you were still recognizable in those days, although I was probably not. A gale forecast, winds already against us. We spun, angling for the dock we couldn't see, tacking and contrary. Is it time now? Softly, I bolt on wings, thermals, feathers, and my hollow bones. Down sky and diminishment I swoop, eyeing the valley for a glimpse of you, my winsome. the right moment to dive and seize flesh instead of loosened memory. But this has all been imagination. There, the fleeting shadow, then nothing. Moon tonight hangs on the mountain. Okay. Two strangers in Camden, Maine. You know, when I first started this out, I was thinking that I wouldn't do any Icarus poems because I've been blasting everybody with so many of them, but it's my number one obsession right now, and I just can't quite get away from them. Plus, once I had him wash ashore in the state of Maine, which is going to happen, that, you know, you will realize that has already happened in this next poem, since it is Icarus speaking. I kind of like, I gave up. It's everywhere, guys. He's just there. So I'm just going to jump in here, but there's a conceit behind this, that Icarus survived his fall and by some miracle washes ashore in Maine in the 21st century. Two strangers in Camden, Maine. The Panamanian places a row of snapshots on the bar. His fingers brush their surfaces. This, my wife, he says. These, my two boys. This, my daughter. I'm divorced, I say. We couldn't have children. Ah, says the Panamanian, that is hard. I, chef on a yacht, leaving tonight. Phoned home, made no connection. We raise our glasses for different sadnesses. I tell him two osprey fly keening like mourners over the rock at dawn. I tell him harbor seals bob up, look right at you. I talk of selkies, seal spirits shaping a woman of such beauty the first man seeing her falls in love forever. I confess to wishing such a thing would happen to me, though all would end badly, since selkies return to the sea. A strange belief, he says. A wish I cannot understand. We finish our beers, walk the long wharf to his berth. I work for a rich man and his wife, very strange people. No one else on board, only boss can steer. One day, boss and the wife quarrel. Boss throws the wife in the ocean, takes a gun, shoots at her head. She floats up and down. Then boss starts to cry, turns the boat around. I pull the wife on board. Boss crying, telling the wife he loves her. We shake hands. At the land end of the dock, I look back at the yacht, a long white boat shimmering on its moorings like a diamond. Another of my long time, excuse me, my long time obsessions is with crows, and that continues because I mean, I still talk to the crows around the house, and that's not going to change, and they still come around. So this is a poem that has something to do with crows, which is why I bring that up. Dragonfly frequenting backyards, hunting metallically. Flat wings smear soot thin. A rural road's moonless night where tree branches take the passerby pulse. They rustle, the scrape history lammed onto bark thinly, thinly as dragonfly wings. And first time hearing whitetail bucks stamp and hiss in the pitch dark, I tumble into the ditch, prostrate like a penitent. The Wendigo's permanent touch. Nothing is ever blacker than fear. There is more to endure, O antlered one, than a blindness wormed from leaf mulch. Like a vole between a fox's paws, I look into my mother's black Catawba eyes. Then father, white, afraid, and dying slowly in a fluorescent room. Blackness, he says, pretending that having told the truth or lied makes no difference 40 years after the event. One last ambiguous breath. Ask me something else. What is it about crows? When a memory stretches out of rivet and cell so a fact will not let go, the crows gather, cant on a cherry tree limb vigil by the river, watch what opens. The cannot be turns color than frames the jerky night until dawn bends to mutter and caw. Dying men wait to speak, the better left dead. In the dread moment, the breathing tube is removed. The voice croak. calls the crows closer. The flock grieves its ratchet notch by notch. Ghost I knew covered tracks and brushed my infancy with branches, blue wind, sand drift, trail gone, so bury me. I'm going to pull one more from the book. Sorry for the delay. I had it marked and pulled the marker out with the last one. I'm so sorry about this. Dead to this afternoon from the apartment next door, the old woman's voice again through the walls. Fine, go on living there. I'm sorry, not really. I'm going to make an excuse for this. I'm in a lot of back pain and I'm having trouble staying focused. Apparently, I'm going to start this again because I keep misspeaking words and I can't stand that. Dead to me. This afternoon from the apartment next door, the old woman's voice again through the walls. Fine, go on living there. You're dead already. You're dead. You're dead to me. Over and over, day after day. On an afternoon like this, when rain scours down, like the last time we talked, both of us hatless, cold, trickling, then torrenting down our necks, soaking our collars and shirts. On an afternoon like this, you told me the secret you had kept a lifetime, my lifetime. What does it mean that I have always known that for most of that life, my life, I have not cared enough to question or to bother repeating? On an afternoon like this, I touched your shoulder, my hand raw and wet, and faked sympathy, my sympathy raw and wet. On an afternoon like this, rain raw as the gaping wound you imagined as all your own. I pretended until I believed I did not pretend. The Earth's core was already plugged into me like an anode, battery acid slick as rain dripping off the noses and chins of two men standing hatless in the deluge, one touching the other on the shoulder, a pretense of touch. A touch stripped away with the soaked clothes peeled off in the mudroom so as not to drip on the newly waxed kitchen floor. Next door, the black dog they keep chained outside barks at their window through the downpour. You're dead. You're so dead. You're past dead. Well, that was the funny part. Now, I'm going to change gears. I've been working on a manuscript that is tentatively, I'm pretty sure it's going to be called Atrocities, Travesties, and Cold Heart Ironies. And it's mostly, or the first half of it is about stories that strangers have told me, in those situations where I know I'm not the only person this happens to, but it does happen to me a fair amount. If there's an open seat next to me on a bench, someone sits down and just gives me their worst dump, and then they go. It's like the worst story of their life. And I'm just sitting there going, yeah. And so I just take it in, and that's all I can do. But it's been part of my life course, and I have decided recently that actually that is probably what I'm supposed to be doing. And I wanted to put some of them down as poems of witness. And so I'll begin with these. How much time do I have? Yeah, good. Suburban Picaresque. Once he was 5. Year that bottle blue fly wound past his head. Electric comet spark frightened him. Buzz rounded the Finch chain. Landed on Link was stepmother eye. Sun ambled. Heat jacked small boy. Hot. Paws in the dust boy, yaller dog boy, at the edge of the world boy, yonder yawned the construction, cellar hole, pit dug out for a secret boy, Carolina red dirt boy, down, 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 down deep, Son gone, next door back home, gin, big jazz, band night, records, turntable and loud, just loud. Meanwhile, twilight little boy slides down mud red chasm, an avalanche. Waist deep all night, night, rainwater, waist deep. Where is anyone? Rain, the rain, until morning. No dry sounds. When stepmother, blue eyes, find him shivering, drags filthy, useless boy to the kitchen. Her Bible in hand, daddy's belt. What was he thinking? Definitely going to date myself with this one. November 22nd, 1963. We dismissed early, stepped into sunshine, yellow buses idling against curbing. Some of us walked across the schoolyard, then the baseball field, fence and left bordering Doane Ave where I lived. One day, I would hit hard balls over it, make Little League All-Stars. Summer before, a high school kid homered into the picture window in a house across the street. Like a bullet, Billy Reynolds shouted. Like out of a gun, we cheered, not knowing yet what a real bullet would do. Nothing on the diamond indicated how our lives would change. Until Dougie Anderson, running the wrong way to meet us, shouted, "They shot the president." He lied. We had to stop his mouth. He'd lied to stay home from school again, pretending sickness, and his mother let him get away with murder since his father left and never came back. One lie leads to another. We knew that. And why would he say something so twisted and sick? So we shoved him while he whined, our hands on his body, hammering judgment with our blows, and his bloody lip gleamed in a pale November afternoon. When he fell, we kicked him, got a nice one between his legs, like a bullet. A weekend of Jackie crawling onto the trunk of the car, endless rotundas, Jack Ruby, another lesson what a bullet could do. Next week, I met Dougie on the playground and punched his dirty liar face because what he said was true. That, by the way, I'm not the one that punched a kid or kicked him between the legs, so you know. I've got a series, there's 3 poems here that go together, and they actually do go together. They were one poem at one time, and then it was atrociously long. And it's, I'm gonna try to do it in this man's voice. You don't know this guy, but you know people like him. And for some reason, I actually worked with him a night shift in a paper recycling warehouse. So I got to hear a lot of his stories. The first poem is Mushrooms. She would put water glasses on the window sills, said her house was always burgled whenever she goes out. I like that word, burgled. One day she says she's driving home from the grocery and this mushroom truck follows her and she's racing through the park 70 miles an hour in a 15-mile zone and she lost them. Crazy as me still wanting her, but she was gorgeous. Now another day she gets home. I'm waiting, got my own key for 2 weeks now. And she runs for the bathroom. She starts screaming, "There's a big mushroom floating in the toilet." She starts screaming, "Poison in my tampons." I mean, for Christ's sake, she knows it's me. Pulls the glass in my head. Well, maybe she's dropped dead. But I never signed on for this. Serious business. Month later, me in bed with a woman. You hear what I say, that woman? Police banging the door, breaking the lock, and me tangled in the sheets with this girl. I find out the hard way she's fucking underage. Slut starts screaming, "It was him, he did it." I don't have a clue what is going down. She's screaming and I'm ready to slap. I'm ready. I'm figuring, whoa, baby, this ain't rape, but my hands are cuffed. Me standing there stark naked. I'm saying, y'all sure caught my pants down. No sense of humor. Cops banging up my face. They really bruising this joker now, abusing me, how the man operates. Serious business, see? I don't know, some 6-year-old girl is just murdered in the woods right across where I live. And they accusing me like they know, sure they don't, because I was seen walking home at the time of death, but this itty titty I meet on the street right out front of my porch and comes on to me like hands down my pants practically, you know. So I'm giving my best love, what she wants and all, the while she's setting me up. Yeah, She babysat that little girl that left the corpse in the woods, left a smell all over me. But sand in my bed matched dirt from the murder scene in the end. And it shows up in Jailbait's hair and under her fingernails. And they charged her for murder, but it took me in anyway. Train on track. So I served 2 years for lewd behavior and corrupting a minor. And then another city, figure it must have been the place maybe, or my time, like a tough break kid like Billy the Wild, or a junkie only wanting that register to sing when the gun goes off by accident. Maybe. So bye-bye birdie, whoever says that, no one I know. And I am hot as my probation officer's armpits. Every time I see him, he has sweated through his shirt, and I am still not working. He says, you are walking a tightrope. You are standing on the edge. You are like the dumbest ass. And I keep telling him, you don't see me fall. I'm your angel. I'm a train on straight track. He never laughs. Very serious man. Now I'm hungry. The woman serving Dunkin' Donuts got blue knuckle tacks, and that scaggy blonde on break smoking a cigarette, sharing a drag with me because I am so hard up, getting a hard on. I know where I'm going to be right there, baby, when that shift ends, because now, honey, she sure does like me. Earthquake. I was overtired. Boston to LA the night before, so I was suspended between waking and sleeping, which is always a dangerous time. His dreams are still sharp enough to cut. And that's where I was, 4:30 a.m., wandering in that half light, half place, and then thrown awake. I mean, literally thrown awake. Northridge, quake, West Hollywood, a serious 7.4. I'm standing up, I'm falling down, the whole world crashing and thrashing like the planet caught on a fish hook. Kitchen dishes, glasses like a weird symphony, all the small glasses shattering and sounding like piccolos, and the earth groaning so low it was deeper than you could hear. You could feel it like tympani booming inside the body, like skin wasn't a barrier, and my bones ached from it. But when the tremors stopped, I started feeling better and better. Sirens going off, and helicopters in the air, and everyone pouring out onto the street. But it was just like my marriage, and felt like the earth shook just for me. And that's when I decided to file for a divorce. What have I got here? Well, I'm going to read two more. And I really appreciate you all for hanging in there with me tonight through my technical problems and my other bizarre notions, and the one about speaking, which tonsillectomy. Back then in the late 50s anyway, they took them out of just about all the children. One sore throat and bang, out they come. I remember like yesterday, the Bible stories my aunt gave me on the bedside table where I had slept badly because my throat hurt again. In the morning, I'm wheeled down a long corridor of white walls on a shining table so bright, I think it princely, believing it to be silver. I'm not afraid. Ether smells sweet. I sink. I'm not afraid because they told me Jesus would be with me, and he walks on water, and he teaches me to breathe underwater like a fish, looking up at people in white, huge, fuzzy, some with horns on their heads. They drop metal into my mouth, but I do not bite on the hooks. Down here in the Sea of Galilee, Jesus breathes for me. I sleep in his arms, just Jesus and the little fish with a sore throat. Later, I wake in the room with the Bible stories. No one is with me. I cough blood, afraid. Jesus is in some other room, sinking to the bottom. Let's see. I want to close with something that's a little bit lighter. On the one hand, I like reading all these dark things and beating people with them, but then I'm kind of ashamed that I'm beating people with all these dark things again. So we'll go on a different note. 3 celestial bodies touch each other in the bath. Perfect for me, the bath is hot for you. Or when perfect for you, cold to me. I reach for your thigh. Why I ponder anything but intimacy right now is less question and more flaw. But given relativism, how do we arrive at mutuality? I sit up. Water rushes almost over the edge. Boy, is your breath, while the air, balmy to you but cold to me, raises goosebumps on my arms. Someone strolls across my grave. You raise eyebrows, shake your head, scatter water beads like shattered glass. Even now, by candlelight, I consider the broken thing. You fingertip my chest. But listen, what if a river encircles the world? Our tub full, a mere drop, a river on which Vishnu floats, dreaming lovers partially immersed, smiling a smile mortals cannot trust, since he might awake at any time, and we discover our lives measured by the REM cycle of a god. Or if not river and Vishnu, then ether suspending stars, or even some other force, metaphysical, mechanical, a different deity. It matters not which, since we both know, my sweet, that whatever wields life cannot be trusted. You answer that water stays in the tub we share right here, and our bodies are solid flesh. You lean forward to kiss. I lean toward my fate to kiss you back, reaching behind me to open the drain. Thank you all for.
That was spectacular.
Well, thank you.